This is Transport BT, a podcast of BT correspondents.
Welcome to Transport BT, part of the BT Correspondence podcast. This is your host, Derryn Wong. Now, in February, the government announced a massive change for the car industry in Singapore, the Parf rebate reduction. Let me give it to you straight. It affects everyone from car buyers to car sellers, dealers, manufacturers, normal cars, luxury cars, EVs. We've got a 20-minute podcast ahead, and we will still only scratch the surface of this matter. But listen on and you'll understand the what, why, and how at least. At the Budget 2026, the Preferential Additional Registration Fee, or Parf, rebate was reduced by 45 percentage points with a new cap of $30,000, down from $60,000. In the most basic terms, it means more expensive cars, especially, lost a lot of their on-paper value overnight. But it's a really big move. It could boost EV sales, could drag luxury car sales down, and non-EV sales as well. It could increase costs everywhere, from insurance premiums to interest rates for car loans and even ride-hailing prices. We have automotive consultant with the Vincar Group, Vincent Ng, to walk us through it all. Hi Vince, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Derryn. The policies are developing and ever-changing. It has been an exciting 3 years with the Vincar Group and the development of EV and the sales situation in Singapore.
Actually, I would say, the past 3 years has been the most exciting for the car industry in decades, right?
And moving rapidly, changes sometimes are a little bit too fast for even motor traders like us to comprehend. We spend a lot of time looking at policies and wondering what the minister will do next, because to bring the business forward, actually, what is important is product planning. And we are always constantly looking at what products are relevant, what products customers want. And at the end of the day, without understanding government policies, you will never be able to have a successful car business. That's
right. So it
right.
brings us to the Parf rebate. What exactly is a Parf rebate?
So Derryn, when police still wear shorts, you have registration fee, in the 80s. And then, because the government wants to tax the vehicles that were being registered, they came up with additional registration fee. The concept of replacement has always been a very important part of what the government has also said, referring to the renewal of cars on the road by taking them off. In the past, the government has two schemes. Additional registration fee, 1989, was 175% of the ARF. And when I bought my Honda CRX in 1989, the price list has two prices, ARF and PARF. So Preferential Additional Registration Fee was coined because if you bring in a scrap car to tie in with your new car purchase, you are granted a Preferential Additional Registration Fee rate. It's your old car that you have to show that the car belongs to you and that you are taking this car off to register this new car. Okay, because you are doing that, I give you a Preferential Additional Registration Fee rate. So the government changed. ARF went from a single rate to tiered,
Registration fee was administration fee, right?
Registration fee is just for you to register the car. It's just an administrative fee.
And then additional registration fee was just...
It's just a tax, that's right. It's to discourage you from buying a car.
And that today is about at least 100% of the original...
Correct. So the tiered ARF says that anything below 20,000, you pay 100%. And then the tier goes up accordingly. So actually, there are a lot of car taxes already in Singapore. And of course, the most talked about one now is definitely the COE.
Additional registration fee is a tax, and then you get your preferential additional registration fee rebate, which is to encourage you.
Not rebate, Derryn, because when you look at how they structured it, when you buy a car without taking in a scrap car to tie in with your new car purchase, you pay 175% of OMV as additional registration fee. But if you bring in a scrap car and tie in with that new car registration, you are granted a preferential rate. And it is not 75%. All right. So in 1983, it actually starts at 40%. So you are actually buying a car cheaper. So if you take an old car, scrap it, deregistered, take it off the road, the government actually grants you a preferred additional registration fee rate.
Cash for clunkers. Right?
Correct. But they don't give you cash. They give you an upfront tax discount. That was a system then. But of course, the government has already evolved the system. I think they somehow have not changed the meaning of PARF.
Yeah, exactly.
So the PARF today is actually a rebate based on the ARF that you have paid in purchasing the new car. But unfortunately, because of the way that the system has evolved, the replacement of a new car has been de-linked from the deregistration of an old car.
They purely kept we want you to deregister early part, and you don't have to worry about the old car anymore.
That's right.
Okay.
So actually right now, there is no link anymore with the system of the past, which actually encourage you to replace your old car with a new one by offering you a preferred additional registration fee rate.
That brings us to the modern day, the most recent thing where they reduce the amount that you get from the PARF.
That's
rebate.
right.
Yeah. So let me quote Lawrence Wong to you first.
Yes.
And he said, EVs are less pollutive than conventional petrol cars. And as EVs become more common, the need to encourage early deregistration through the Parf rebate is reduced. That's what Prime Minister and Finance Minister Lawrence Wong said at the budget. Is that really going to happen? I mean, now that they've reduced the Parf rebate, will you really...
I was stunned, okay, but I think we didn't quite understand what he was trying to offer. Right now, if you look at the Parf system, okay, like what he is trying to link back, if you say that now, in order to encourage people to deregister their car early, the Parf system right now, okay, which is linked to the current cars in place, is still relevant. But in the future, is it really relevant? And that is a misnomer because we don't see EVs taking up 100% of sales. So what happens to these cars that people continue to buy, be it hybrid, be it petrol, they pay all the various taxes. The tax has already been increased to favor electric vehicles. But if they don't, these cars that are being registered with COEs taken from 2 rounds ago will have, unfortunately, some of the ICE cars that people continue to buy has remarkably no more so-called Parf rebate, or what I would say ARF rebate. So what do you do? So at the end of 10 years, when they reach 10 years in, say, 2036, it will be the same as an EV. The EV will have already quite well known, little or no rebate. Your ICE cars will have little or no rebate. So at that point in time, it will be more glaring because I'm not sure how the policies would have shifted to encourage you to scrap the car or to scrap the non-EV car. So if you look at that, the dynamics of it would be very simple because you are giving next to zero. Okay, in the past, like for example, those cars that are still on the road with COEs taken on the first bit of February, my car still have, if you trade in it or you scrap it or you take it off the road, you still have up to 60,000 to look forward to. Talking about expensive cars.
Yeah.
But if you have a relatively cheaper car, like for example, the Honda HR-V petrol car, all right, from 7,000, it became 700.
You're talking about the rebate, right?
I'm talking about
they
used to be a 7,000 rebate.
If at 9 years you decide to deregister your HR-V, you used to get
7,000.
7,000. And now
That's
you
right.
only get 700.
Now you only get 700. It's very glaring here because at that point in time, if your rebate is 700, depending on the situation, if you really want to continue using a car and say the COE premium is too high, it's still cheaper to pay PQP to renew your COE.
Yeah. So in fact, it might lead to more people renewing their COEs rather than more than anything.
For example, if now I'm 40 years old, I decided to buy a HR-V or any other vehicle for that matter, or even an EV, depending on the situation, because in 10 years' time, I would be 50. Do I still have the financial capacity to support a new car at current rate of taxation plus the unknown level of COE in the future? Because regardless, if you are not paying ARF, that forms a substantial part of the cost of the vehicle. Even EVs are getting more expensive because the rebates are being removed. So you will be paying tax, but you'll be getting back next to nothing. And as you progress, you can see the VAS rebate for EVs is going to be 20,000 next year. That means cars will continue to have next to no rebate. EVs will have next to no rebate. And some people will think that, next year VAS rebate is only 20,000, right? Yeah. Then the car would have some ARF rebates at the end of 10 years. But with this system, it's completely wiped out. So all cars in 2036 with COEs bidded on the second round of February 2026 will have that situation. No rebate, don't have to pay tax, just pay COE. Compared to still have to pay tax, still have to pay COE. I think that situation right now is quite easy to see because people are paying PQP to keep their cars longer. And you can see the increased trend already, the last 12 months. You just look at the number of people who is extending their COE, even the current situation with COEs at 110,000 or so, people are already paying PQP. Now, if that is not an indication of what can happen 10 years later, I don't know. But it does tell us that a little bit of the story that could happen.
What I take away from this is there's a lot of confusion and the conclusions of the car industry observers doesn't line up with what the PM said. So, obviously you told me the real reason for this is tax, right?
If you have to
takes.
give up to 60,000 in the last round, right? Okay,
Yeah.
because the maximum was set at 60,000, but now you have set it at 30,000. And on top of that, you reduce the percentage points by 45. So instead of keeping up to 60,000, actually right now, you only have to provide up to 30,000. Immediately, more tax can be realized. I think that removes the uncertainty for the government to recognize the realization of the tax. And I think for policies making, having that money up front is clearer and
a lot more concrete,
can do more things. Yeah, what about buyers?
What about them? You just pay more.
Yeah.
We're going to go for our break. When we come back, more possibles on this Parf change. Luxury sales might get slain. Insurance rates might go up. Maybe even the cost of ride-hailing trips as well. Stay tuned.
Good conversations start with the right questions. This season, those questions are about us. The people, the policies, the forces shaping all of us. Lens on Singapore with Claressa Monteiro. Back in May. Powered by the journalism of the Business Times. On YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
And now, back to Transport BT, a podcast of BT correspondents.
Okay, we are back from our break with Vincent Ng, our car industry veteran and consultant. We're talking about the Parf rebate reductions that were recently announced at Budget 2026.
Because we have discussed more or less, this is an indirect push for EVs. And to a certain extent, it's true. Because right now, the government gives you up to 30,000 ARF rebate upfront at the point where you register. So a friend of mine has jokingly said that actually this is a private CDC voucher, okay, for car buyers. Because it's upfront, you don't pay it. For your non-EV buyers, okay, you continue to pay tax. Some of the cars, the OMVs are lower. But at the end of the day, what is most important, I think, at this point in time for car buyers is actually the numbers are there. Whether you go for an EV, okay, is it because the price is cheaper, which I think most people are now looking more at EVs because the upfront price is cheaper. And on top of that, the servicing costs are more controlled. You know where and how much you will spend servicing the car, etc., etc. A lot of brands are offering free, 10-year free servicing, etc., etc. The unknown part of car ownership when you get an EV is a little bit clearer. Yeah, but if you continue to buy an ICE or you continue to buy a hybrid, anything that's non-EV, at the end of the day, even if you're conservative, this is going to prompt you to seriously think whether it's time to buy an EV. And this is exactly what the government wants, because without coming out with a single extra CDC private voucher, the car buying public is already persuaded just by the mere sensibility in the numbers that they are presented with and confronted with in the decision making to buy a car. That is net what I would say would be the effect.
It's already working, right? I mean, I think in Parliament, they said EV take-up was already more than 50% in January.
In January.
The whole of last year was 45%.
Last year, you remember we had this conversation as well. And I would say that for Cat B, it will not hit 50%. But we had a 45% overall adoption. And I think for Category A, it's already 50% last year. But this year, it's 53% already in January. So the government has already set the motion of EV adoption in place. And I think with this change in the Parf system, yes, positively speaking, with also all the good announcement about the DC charging hub guaranteed in all the places and all that, the government is actually sending a very positive signal to the car buying public. Yeah.
You were saying now EVs and non-EVs are really on a level playing field. Can you explain that to us?
In the past, when motor traders try and push an EV or a non-EV, there's always the situation where the motor trader that's selling the non-EV will tell you, hey, but the car has no Parf. I think with this announcement, even if it is just 5%, actually a lot of the cars at the end, if they take it off the road just before 10 years, the Parf rebate or what I would say the ARF rebate. Parf rebates is a little bit misleading. Since the public knows it that way, the Parf rebate is actually basically zero. So effectively, all cars at the end of 10 years has little or no rebate. And of course, the government has set a new cap instead of 60,000 to 30,000. You can only see the 30,000 in very expensive cars. That, I think, spells the situation right now. In the short term, this measure will definitely affect people who is buying a car, including 110,000 COE now, for something that's below 200K. If you look at Cat A markets, the sweet spot is below 200K, including 110,000 COE. That sets in place a bit of a headache when you are shopping for a car. Basically, this journey will cause a lot of customers to rethink what they were planning to buy. If you look at the characteristic of an electric vehicle, actually they are perfect for urban type of driving. No noise, easy to move with,
It's a win-win, right? I think
it's a win-win,
Singapore
and
especially.
there are lots of aids to make the drive safer. I think this is what the entire market will go through. Whether you're buying a car now or you're buying a car later, the reduction of the Parf rebate have actually caused a change in the dynamics in car decision making.
We go from a possible rebate of 60 grand down to just 30 grand. That's a lot of money. Do you think the more expensive cars get more of the rebate, obviously?
Yes.
So does that mean luxury car sales will get affected, or?
The government came up with the first tiered ARF. Everybody was shocked. After that, 2 more revisions were made. Okay,
so
and
tiered ARF meant that more expensive cars get more tax,
correct.
basically. Yeah.
So the tiered ARF system has been targeting cars with high OMV. Car has a lot of tax. People talk about, COE categorization should be done with OMV, this and that. But OMV tax is maxed out with your tiered ARF. If you are buying a cheap car, you pay the least tax. 1989 CRX, I had to pay 175% if I didn't scrap a car. Actually, the tax is now very, very gradual. It actually addresses the issue where if you buy a more expensive car, you pay more tax. You buy more affordable, actually you pay lower tax. But your luxury car buyer is not after all these kind of numbers. Maybe for a little while, like for example, some of the Ferrari owners or buyers who were waiting for the cars were initially very taken back.
They would have to pay 300
They have
grand,
to pay
400 grand
$300,000
more?
to $500,000 more.
And that's just the tax alone.
And that's just the tax alone.
Yeah.
So they weren't happy. But right now, we are not talking about upfront costs being more. Okay, we are talking about
the ownership.
The ownership prospect of you keeping for 10 years. I mean, if you are buying a Ferrari, how many will keep it for 10 years? Most of the people who can afford one will not think about, what am I going to do with the car in 10 years? It is not that kind of decision, you know what I mean? The luxury car buyers, after all this has sunken in, they will just continue buying. It's not going to stop them from splurging on a car that has got no value after 10 years. They're not going to drive the car up to 10 years. But of course, there is a category of customers, who might be quite badly affected. I think at this point in time, below 200,000, buy an EV is a no-brainer. You probably get the size of the car you want, the sophistication, the tech. You can buy 2 motor, you can buy 3 motor, whatever. But beyond that, where people has been buying ICE cars, for example, if you look at the price range between 200,000 to 300,000, those are still ICE territory. And largely, they would be maybe pure ICE. Actually, BMW were very, very dependent on ICE vehicles.
What kind of cars are you talking about? Like your 3 Series? Or?
Maybe an X1. 3 Series is already 300,000. So they are actually a little bit out of the spectrum.
So these are the cheaper luxury cars.
We have aspiring car owners, and those are driven very much by badge. The upfront price hasn't changed. So if you are prepared to buy, say, a 260,000 car, maybe say a Toyota Harrier, OMV 40 over 1,000, 50% rebate in the past of about 20,000. If you now lose this and you're now left, instead of 20,000, you're left with 2,000. The difference, whether you look at this as depreciation or not, main thing is the upfront price has not really been changed by this measure.
And that's what consumers will look at most, right?
That's what consumers will look at most. If you think on a more positive side, the people who's buying the 200,000 to 300,000 cars, they would be more learned, educated. They read the news. They know that they have been affected. If that's the case, to get the best bang for your buck, people will start thinking about alternatives. And that is the self-fulfilling prophecy which the government has promised. You will think about an EV. Which one gives you better value for money? I would say that for the bulk of the people who are buying cars right now versus the people who is a statement of my achievement, I think when you are at that level, this kind of ARF rebates going to affect you lesser. Definitely there would be a shift, but to what extent, I think nobody knows yet. Yeah, we'll see it in the next couple of biddings.
Thanks, Vince. That's all from Vincent Ng, our automotive consultant from Vincar, on the very extensive Parf rebate consequences of the changes in Singapore. That's it for Transport BT this week. Next week on BT Correspondence, we have an episode on China, real estate and retail. This episode was produced by Howie Lim and Chieh together with our editor Claressa Monteiro, and was written and presented by me. Thank you for listening. I'm Derryn Wong, signing out.
This is a podcast by the Business Times. Find more BT podcasts at businesstimes.com.sg/podcasts. Or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is meant to provide general information only. SPH Media accepts no liability for loss arising from any reliance on the podcast or use of third parties' products and services. Please consult professional advisors for independent advice.